Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to the Introduction to Psychology edition of 5 Minute Psych. In this 5-minute segment, we'll look at branches in psychology, and in doing so, we'll see that there are two main branches, experimental and applied psychology. Then we'll explore the different areas of specialization within experimental psychology before discussing the fields within applied psychology. There are two main branches in psychology, and if you're thinking about going on in psychology, this would be your first career decision. Which branch do you want? The experimental branch conducts research to try to understand mental processes and behaviors. Experimental psychologists work in settings that allow them to do research, like universities, hospitals, industry, or government. Applied psychologists, on the other hand, use the knowledge that was gained through research to help people in some way. They usually work in therapeutic settings, such as hospitals or clinics, but they may also be found out in the field or in industry. Contained within both of these main branches are many different areas of specialization. Here are some of the different subfields within experimental psychology. Physiological psychology mainly uses animal subjects to study the physiology of behaviors like memory, sleep, and hunger. Comparative psychologists are interested in how behaviors have adapted over evolutionary time, and their research compares different species to see how they've adapted to their specific environmental problems. Developmental psychologists care about age-related changes in all aspects of psychology, like personality, memory, vision, and so on. Social psychologists focus on how others influence the individual, and they're interested in topics like prejudice, group dynamics, and attraction. A neuropsychologist is looking to link specific brain mechanisms with mental processes and behaviors. A cognitive psychologist studies higher mental processes like language, concepts, and problem solving. Personality psychologists try to understand the ways that we're consistent in our behavior and what causes us to have these consistencies. Psychologists who study sensation and perception conduct research that deals with understanding how our senses organize and interpret incoming sensory information. Finally, a psychologist who studies learning mainly works with animals to see how past experiences can affect future behavior. There are many subfields within the main applied psychology branch, and the one you probably think of right off the bat is clinical psychology, which involves diagnosing and treating people with psychological disorders and problems. Many people confuse a clinical psychologist with a psychiatrist, probably because they both treat the same kinds of disorders. But a psychiatrist is a medical doctor first and can therefore prescribe drugs to treat psychological disorders, while a clinical psychologist uses other tools besides drugs. A counseling psychologist is like a clinical psychologist in that they use talking therapy, except that the problems that they handle tend to be everyday issues, like marital problems or career counseling, rather than something like depression or anxiety, which is what a clinical psychologist would help you work through. A health psychologist's goal is to get people to lead healthier lifestyles by promoting healthy behaviors like exercise, diet, and sleep. This is different from a sports psychologist who works closely with athletes to overcome any barriers that impact their success. An educational psychologist works to improve the quality of education and overcome any issues within the school system. They might, for example, figure out the best way to deliver course material through curriculum design. A community psychologist tries to change our social systems so that they work better for the people who actually use those systems. For instance, they would deal with the homeless by focusing on the social system that's in place to help these people. A consumer psychologist works closely with marketing departments to study consumer behavior. They might focus on advertising, labels, or other aspects of their product that impact buying. Engineering psychologists use what they know about human behavior to better design machines. And finally, industrial and organizational psychologists work in large companies and government agencies to improve the quality of life at work. They worry about things like productivity and employee satisfaction. Well, we just looked at branches in psychology. First, we looked at the different areas of specialization within experimental psychology, and then we examined the fields within applied psychology. Now, aren't you glad you had 5 minutes?